morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take on this Friday and the wild week. I mean, you just can't even explain it. And yesterday just is a perfect example of what we've been going through basically for the majority of what's been the first couple of weeks of 2022. Yesterday, we're up 400 points on the Dow. And as we started to get into the second half of the day and then the very last half hour or so of the day, the acceleration of the move to the upside was absolutely unbelievable. We're talking about a 700-point swing. We're talking about a market that was up 400 on the Dow. We finished the day down more than 300 points on the Dow. And the NASDAQ basically on the same sort of a story. It was up pretty significantly, actually, up over 300 points or thereabouts. And then by the time we closed up shop in the last 30 minutes or so, we finished down about 186 points yesterday. Gives you a great example of just the swift volatility and the movement, this velocity of these moves. We bring it up all the time, those V's, and they really do stand out each and every day. And it's just been the storyline for 2022, and it just continues. And matter of fact, today, we're seeing even a little bit of more of that. Before we get to that, when you look around at all the various sectors and just the massive turns, yesterday where we had certain sectors up as much as 2%, but by the end of the day, actually finishing down the day 2%. Consumer discretionary certainly flipped around. Technology absolutely flipped around. Financials flipped as well. A lot of these were significantly positive. We're talking 1.5%, 2.5% to the upside, and then finishing 1.1% or more to the downside. So just a really, really wild day. And the SMH definitely stood out as well. We're talking about that all the time. We even had some pretty significant put buying in there yesterday that turned into something that was absolutely correct, because that market, as they started to buy those puts, we started to see that cascade. It was not the trigger, but around midday yesterday, a little bit into the midday, when we look at Peloton and the news and all of that was going on there, and that significant move to the downside, and all of the stop trading and everything that was going on yesterday, trying to clarify things. It was an absolute unbelievable day. And was it a catalyst? I don't know that you could say that was a catalyst, but that was about the time we started to see markets really start to roll over. The Chinese names, they kind of held in there. Peloton did not hold in there at all. As a matter of fact, when you look at some of the volatility and the volatility indexes yesterday, we really did have some movement there. You look at the VIX, for instance, traded basically, call it somewhere between 22 and 26. We finished the day near those highs of the day, right around 25.60. The volume yesterday pushing that 50 million mark. That was 49.2 million contracts in the options world trading as well. The VXX, we had some huge call buying in there yesterday that already performed, as a matter of fact. They were buying the January 28th expiring VXX calls, the Jan 20 calls. 20,000 of those, they paid a little over $1 before you knew it. Those were absolutely in the money and starting to move to the upside. So gives you a little bit of an idea. We talk about volatility all the time. We talk about the velocity of these moves. That gives you a little bit of an idea that even the velocity of volatility, the short-term volatility index of the VXX, just really does reflect everything that we've been talking about for a while now. So end of day comes. Finally, you ring the bell. What could possibly happen that might change things up a little bit? Well, Netflix, of course. A lot of people focused on that. Well, they did not deliver. As a matter of fact, they basically were in line with what they reported. However, that guidance, that certainly was the turning point. The selling came in. We were down 10%. Then we were down 20%, down about 23%. Today, we're down about 25% in Netflix, and the pressure is on. Is it maybe an overreaction? I'm one of the guys who definitely yesterday, when we had some of the experts come on to Fast Money last night talking about this, Rich Greenfield being one of them, and it seemed like he was in agreement with basically the interpretation that I was taking away, which was also, hey, look, you know what? You almost should be expecting some of this, a little bit lighter than maybe expected, and maybe we start to see something pick up later. I would love to see some options trading in there that would give us indications of somebody sort of stepping in, but we haven't seen that yet. But keep an eye on that. Underneath that 400 level, this is a stock that was ripping. It was already off a couple hundred points, give or take, from its highs. And then now today, just an unbelievable move to the downside as well. We had Morgan Stanley and Travelers yesterday. They were kind of standouts in a day that didn't look all that great when you looked at some of the performance there. So as we get into today, we look at a market that's down about 80 points on the Dow, down over 100 points on the NASDAQ. A lot of that NASDAQ being influenced, of course, by Netflix. That was certainly something. We got towards the opening bell, into the opening bell, and actually improved dramatically. Actually went into positive territory for the Dow. That did not last long. Next thing you know, we were down about 15, 20 minutes ago, and things do change really rapidly. We know that. We talk about that all the time, but we look at the volatility, and you look at the Dow down about 200 points. You look over at the NASDAQ down about 250 points. Communication services, they were down about 1.5%. Next thing you know, they were down better than 2.5%. You look over at energy getting beaten up a little bit, and part of that because of the fact that we're seeing energy, actually the oil prices pulling back, actually back underneath that 85 level. And yesterday we were trading about 86. Today we're now trading a little bit under 85 or somewhere close to that. Look over at the 10-year. That's come back down significantly from where we were pushing, no doubt about that. Now about 174 or so for the 10-year. So we are seeing some of that movement. We also see the volatility index. I think I saw it get up over 28 just before coming on here with all this rapid movement, a lot going on there. Financials, a little bit of a hit. That was increasing a little bit as well. The one area that we did see some green, consumer staples. And a lot of those names certainly are leading as far as being at least in the green today. When you look at Clorox and Colgate and Procter & Gamble. Costco actually stood out as well, along with Peloton, which got a little bit of a lift after that crushing hit that it took yesterday and all those different halts throughout the day. But that certainly was something that stood out. Netflix, as I say, down about 25%, a little sentiment going on to Disney down about 6%. You got Intuitive Surgical getting hammered, Tesla getting hit, Boeing getting hit. You get the idea. And some of these high multiple names as well. When you look at a DocuSign, maybe a Zoom, PayPal certainly under some pressure as well. A lot of the various names in the marketplace right now, you can see it. There's not a whole lot of places that people are looking to hide. As I say, you look at that consumer staples, that is the one green area where people are finding a little bit of something. So interesting to watch that whole thing. So here's what we got. Got a couple of unusuals, and then I will be on the halftime report today with Scott and the gang. Looking forward to that. Should be a lot of fun. It's going to be a wild one because of what the markets are doing right now. There's no doubt about that. Get a lot of opinions, I'm sure, and maybe some experts coming in with Netflix and talking about that. We've seen that all day long on the television. A lot of different folks with different opinions on what they see here. We did see a massive flip from a lot of those that are following some of these names, and certainly seeing some pressure coming from that. XLF. Now, XLF, we are not seeing calls today. We actually are seeing puts. We're seeing puts being bought in the KRE and the XLF. The tough thing here is, are these hedges that are being put on? Last night, Carl Icahn was talking about hedges in his portfolio. Are these hedges in the XLF for folks that have financial exposure? Always tough to read. That's why puts are so much more difficult. About 15,000 of the February 38 puts being bought. Those were being bought for about 80 cents. The stock itself or the ETF itself trading about 38.68. So right around those levels where they're buying. So right at the money, and going out to February options as well. We did have one bullish hit that was interesting. They're trying to roll down a little bit because stock has come off of some of its highs, but not that far. But you take a look at UPS, hit highs of about 220. It's back down, trading around 201.30 at the time. We had a buyer of 5,000 of the March 210 calls. Now, interesting, going out to March and coming out of those 220s down to the 210s. So basically still looking for something positive, but wanting to get a little bit more bang for the buck and pushing it down a little bit closer to where those are trading right now. That's an interesting trade to keep an eye on as well. UPS, those were going for a little over $5. So they aren't cheap. It's time, it's volatility, it's all those things that go into the pricing mechanism of this whole thing. But looking for that maybe to rebound past and at least up to 210 and through that between now and March. We'll see how that happens. Folks, look forward to seeing you this afternoon at noon with the halftime report with the guys. Until then, good luck trading. It's going to be a wild ride. Again, we know that going into the weekend.